Hello, my name is Tylluan. I'm a solitary pagan witch. I'm an author and the founder of the Wolf and Howl Press. And today's little chat is about creating our own spells. Where do we go? Well, really, the thing with spell work is you do need to practice it. It has to be a part of your magical work, but it is not the only part, and it's not even really the most important part. People do have this rather potty idea that somehow that's all witches do, is cast a spell here and cast a spell there. And no, we don't. No, it's not like that. Most of our work is geared towards gaining wisdom, gaining knowledge, learning, and that's a whole range of learning we do. And then there is this element of, when we do come to cast a spell, we have to try and put all this to underpin the magic. Now, how can I explain this? Supposing we're going to cast a spell for growth, and we might say, well, growth is a good thing. Marvellous thing, growth, that's what everybody wants. Well, yes and no. Cancer cells grow, for example, and we don't want that happening. So it is a matter of learning wisdom, and this is why I stress the importance of wisdom. We have to focus. There's that word again, we dealt with it in the last video. We have to focus, and we have to try and say, now what exactly do I want? Do I want growth for my garden? Do I want a growth in the number of bees around? Well, yes, but we don't necessarily want a beehive up outside the kitchen window. Not necessarily a good thing to have there. So we've got to be very, very precise as witches. You know, a lot of the reason spells go wrong is because people do not actually think them through properly. And as solitaries, of course, we are in a very, very strong position to get this right. Because one of the troubles with group work is that you don't know for sure whether other people in your group are A, concentrating at all. They could have their mind on what they're going to go and buy in the supermarket afterwards, or what they're going to cook for their tea. So that's one thing. We don't know whether they're actually focused on the same sort of stuff as us. We can get on very well with people, but it doesn't mean we share absolutely all their ideas, all of their ideals. Sometimes they can be very different. So as a solitary, we do have to study. We study lots of things. We study the world around us. We try and study about nature, natural history. We try and study folklore. We try and study different traditions. We try very much to become wise. We try also, I would hope, to be on the right side of history. Now I've got onto my pet peeve, getting on the right side of history. It is important, and it is important in spell work too. When we talk about being on the right side of history, it's about making the right decisions, doing the right thing. And one of the ways we can test ourselves with this, and it's great as a solitary, because you've got nobody else to defer to. You've got nobody else saying, no, you mustn't do that. No, you give it a go. And if you get it wrong, we'll go and clear the mess up. That often puts you off getting it wrong. But one of the ways I find is sometimes I'll see a situation and I'll think, I really feel I ought to do so-and-so about this. And then I think, oh, no, maybe that's not a good idea. But then I think, well, how will you feel if you go home afterwards and you haven't done X, Y, Z, whatever it was? So that will sometimes bring up the problem into good relief, into bright, sort of black and white. You begin to see it and you begin to think to yourself, well, maybe I should speak up and say something. Give you an example. I was out and about the other day. Well, I wasn't out and about very far, but anyway. And there was a young couple with a very young child, and they were trying to get the little girl to sit still for a photograph in a photo booth. And this little girl, she would not. She's a lovely little child, but she would not stay still. You name it, she wriggled over it. And in all fairness, the parents were in a hurry. It's expensive to take passport photos. They were in a rush. They only had one go at this. They had to try and get it right. And I thought to myself, well, what I would have done with my children was probably have offered them something as a bribe at that stage. They'd tried everything. Wouldn't offer a bribe at first, but it does get to that stage. And I thought, ooh, now I've got to be careful with this, because firstly, they mightn't like the child having a sweet. Secondly, they might get very iffy about it, you know, and it might be the last thing. The child might be diabetic or something, you know. So I thought, well, I can do no harm by asking. So I went up and I said, excuse me. I said, I know you're having problems and I know what it's like because I had a lot of children. Would you like me to go over to the till and go and buy some chocolate buttons for your little girl? I said, I don't want anything for it, but would it help? And they said, oh no, she'll be all right in a minute, she's like this. So I left it, that was fine. I didn't do anything. But in a way I did, because I asked, you see. Kindness costs nothing. It wasn't being judgmental, it was just, can I help? And you know, those are sometimes the most important things when you're doing a spell, is to actually sit there and ask yourself, can I help? Or better still, how can I help? And you know, how can I help? They're four of the most important words a witch can learn. So there we are, something to be thinking about. And thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.